Hello and welcome to the Juice and the Orange podcast, the place where everybody is just a name until you know their story. Today, we're honored to have Mr. O'Brien Edwards. O'Brien, how are you doing today?
Fine, thanks, Pastor. Fine, thanks.
We are so glad to have you and we're ready to dive into your story. So let's go.
All
All
right.
right, question number one. Who is O'Brien Edwards?
Well, um, I'm of Jamaican descent. Actually, I am Jamaican. Um, I'm a husband, a friend. Um, in my professional work, I work for New York Life. I'm a financial provider of financial services, and most important, I hope others see me as a Christian.
Amen. Amen. So you mentioned you have those Jamaican roots and you now work in New York.
Mhm.
So what year did you come from Jamaica to the United States of America?
My entire family migrated here in 1984. So that's my parents and my two sisters and my brother. So all six of us came at the same time.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us about your spiritual journey or how you ended up at the Church of the Oranges.
Spiritual journey. Now, I grew up in a household that was primarily Adventist. My mom was Adventist. My dad wasn't, and that was quite interesting. Over the years. He finally gave his life to Christ in 2007.
Hmm.
But between my birth and that time, having a household where one is practicing, the other is not, can create some challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at age 10, I was baptized at age 10, but I didn't really give my life to Christ until maybe 10 years later,
Mm.
till I was about in my early 20s. So while I was baptized about age 10, it wasn't until maybe 12 years later that I gave my life to Christ.
I could resonate with that because I remember getting baptized when I was 12 years old.
Hmm.
And I can resonate because although I was baptized, I really surrendered myself to Jesus Christ when I was like 17 years old.
Right.
And so there's a difference between just being a member in a church
Hmm.
and being a believing, uh, believing Christian, following Jesus Christ with all your heart,
Yeah.
mind, and soul. And so just because you are in church doesn't mean that you are fully sold out for Christ. So thank you for highlighting that. It's very
And
important.
the truth is that even though I was baptized, and even though for the most part, I didn't stray, I still didn't give my life to Christ. So you can still go through all the motions,
Yeah.
and still be someone who has conformed to the ideology and the philosophy or the doctrine, but
Mm,
not really giving yourself over to Christ.
yeah. So how did you end up at the Church of the Oranges? I know you work in New York in the financial sector. Tell us
Well,
about that.
I live in New I live in New Jersey. I live 7 minutes away from the Church of the Oranges.
Hmm.
Uh, for years, I attended church in New York. Um, Met my wife there,
Nice.
and we were very, very involved there. My wife served as first elder there for a number of years. Um, we served as family life ministers. We served in as head of children's ministry. Um, uh, we're both elders, a deacon. Yeah, my wife really her skill set is on the administrative side,
Hmm.
so she really helped on the administrative side with the church, and she serves and still serves as part of the executive committee of the Northeastern Conference.
Nice.
So we've had lots of involvement in our church, um, but churches individuals go through growth and cycles. Churches also go through growth and cycles. And for us, it was a time to find uh, to expand our spiritual horizons, as it were.
Mm,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. So, can you tell us about some of the challenges that you have had to navigate through the course of your life and some of the lessons that you've learned from those experiences?
Challenges. Like I mentioned, I'm married, and marriage presents challenges. It presents lots of growth opportunities. Let's put it that way, for you. And one of the challenges we had to overcome early is the unity and integrity of our marriage.
Mm,
Not to allow ourselves to be subjected or to be influenced by outside forces,
mm,
and that can come in expectations that others may want to place on you. And some of those expectations are family expectations.
hmm
Some of those expectations were church expectations. So, for example, we had a really active church community, and we live in New Jersey. They were in New York, and one of the boundaries we set for ourselves is that, okay, we're at church all day on Sabbaths and a lot on Sundays. We're not going to church on a Friday night. So we just didn't do that,
yeah.
and that was to really protect the integrity of the family. But it can be difficult to put those boundaries in place. But that's something I learned early on, is you have to put boundaries in place,
Yeah.
um, and not just boundaries but consequences for
Mhm.
those who violate those boundaries. And that applies to both your church family and your regular family. So those were some of the things that some of the challenges and obstacles that we had to overcome, is really setting those boundaries early in our relationship, in our marriage, and let people know what the consequences of violating those boundaries were.
Mm. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing the importance of boundaries and just making sure you set those clear expectations,
Hmm.
whether you're serving in ministry, whether sometimes it's on your job or
Yeah,
with your own family members. You need to let them know this is what I am able to do and this is what I'm not going to do.
yeah,
'Cause at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you have to live with your family and they don't. And so thank you. Thank you for stressing that important point.
yeah.
So, a lot of people are stressed out this year and they're looking
Hmm.
forward to 2020 ending and
Yeah.
welcoming 2021 with open arms or perhaps with fear.
Hmm.
What advice would you give to someone who is struggling with the challenges or fearful about 2021?
For my family and myself, 2020 has not been a bad year. It started out with a lot of trepidation. Um, as a matter of fact, the year started out with Church of the Oranges doing a fast, and um, I think was what was that book they did? Um, Desire of Ages.
Yeah, Desire of Ages.
Okay, so we started that fast and that study, and we continued it until the very end. And then after that, we did Acts of the Apostles. Then we did um, Christ Object Lessons. Then we did Steps to Christ. Then we did Patriots and Prophets, and now we're in Prophets and Kings.
Hmm
So this year has been a year of one of the most spiritually grounded years for us as a family.
Mm,
And we started out the year with a prayer and fasting because everyone in our family was under some type of attack, spiritual attack.
mm,
Um, my wife, who is a very senior person at her job, all of a sudden was getting, you know, her work was being questioned.
mercy.
Um, uh, um, Someone else who was in our group, their business was about to fail.
Mm,
Someone else, they were asking for guidance in terms of their career, where to go in terms of in the next steps. And then someone else in the group, they got a letter of termination, or
Wow.
yeah. So everyone was having a very difficult time, and what we decided to do was to give it all to God.
Yeah.
To go into deep study, deep prayer, and we've been up every day, 7 days a week, for since January, at 7 o'clock every morning.
That's
so
awesome.
so we've been doing that every day for the last 11 months, 11, 12 months,
Mm, mm,
and the benefits have been profound. The benefits have been profound, and that's what I would tell individuals is, first and foremost, give this all to God. It's a test of faith. Um, you know, Part of the study that we've done is to show that whenever God is willing to do something great for you, or He's going to do something great in your life, he
mm-hmm,
first he first requires a test of faith. He
mm,
first requires a test of faith. So you see that with Moses in the Red Sea. The Red Sea didn't part until the entire congregation headed towards the Red Sea.
mm,
We see that with the crossing of the Jordan, that the Jordan didn't part until they put their foot in the river.
mm-hmm.
Jericho didn't fall until they 7 days around Jericho. So,
Right.
great things happen only when a sacrifice of faith is given, and
Mm,
we found that true. The other thing we did was we decided to have in the family to have a COVID improvement project.
mm,
So everyone, we have this time. This is the most time we've had together as a family.
right.
So what are you gonna do with the time? You know, use the time wisely. So one person learned to ride a bicycle. One person took up sewing, and I took up archery. So,
Nice.
so yeah, so we did that stuff, and then just did a lot of projects around the house, and rebuild the deck, and just did a lot of stuff. So, you know,
Mm,
time is the most precious commodity we have. So we use the time for self improvement also. So
mm.
we gave our lives to God and dedicate ourselves to God and to prayer and fasting, but we also use the time dedicated to improving to self improvement.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for providing that insightful answer. And I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary last week,
Hmm.
and I'm going to replay back this video and write some of those notes down. But you mentioned marriage and the importance of prayer and the
Hmm.
importance of doing things together.
Yeah.
We are so used to being so busy and just so transient. Some of us don't even eat dinner at the table together, even
Yeah.
during the pandemic, even though we're working from home. So, what advice could you give to families to get closer to each other? Aside from praying, what are some of the things that we have to unlearn or relearn in order to truly, truly live in community as family?
Well, it, it may seem obvious, but family that prays together stays together. Having morning and evening devotion is really a time that family get to reconnect, because if you are being sincere in that environment, people will actually know what you're thinking. They'll know what you're going through. They'll know what's the source of concern for you. They'll know what source of annoyance is for you. They'll know what source of grieving is. So that is core. But in you also have to be intentional in how that is done.
Mm,
All right. If you have kids, let them meet up, make it appropriate for them. Make it fun, make it something that they will want to initiate.
mm,
So that's that part. But in addition to that, um, many people spend a lot of time in planning and designing various aspects of their life. So their career, you ever see someone try to buy a car or a house? That's like a months long process, and
yeah.
just to select a color, right? But oftentimes we're not as intentional in protecting and safeguarding our families.
Mm.
Um, like I mentioned before, in terms of at one time my wife and I were serving as elders, and at churches they have a schedule where elders are serving, right?
Yeah.
And so because both of us were elders, you could have the possibility of every other week one of us are serving and we're not sitting together.
Mm.
One of the things we requested and was granted was that we always serve together. We
Mm.
always serve the same Sabbath, so that we're even if we're serving, we're sitting together on the pulpit, and then other than that, we sit together in the congregation. So we always make those things. Make we look ahead to make sure those things happen,
Mm.
because one of the things that I'm very jealous of our family time. Right, I'm very jealous of the family, and I safeguard that time. Um, Food is a very good thing. You
Amen.
have to set time where you cook together, you eat together, you go out together. Oh, one of the things we do since the pandemic, since you can't go out, we go hiking every Sunday now.
Nice.
So every Sunday we go hiking. So you just have to build in the time, just like any other thing that you do for work, and you build in the time, you have to build in family time.
Mm.
And we don't have kids, so we don't have some of the pressures of families with kids. But if you had kids, you have to make sure you're building time for the kids. If it's
Yeah.
just you and your spouse, you have to build and set aside time just for you and your spouse. And then finally, in families, sometimes things don't go right. Sometimes you have issues, and sometimes we are not the best person to solve our own problems. So over the years, my wife and I, we have gone and we've gotten counseling.
Hmm.
Some of it is for between ourselves, and some of it is one person is having a difficult time with an issue, but we
Hmm.
go together, and you go and get counseling if you need it. If you have a financial problem, you go to see a financial advisor. If you have a relationship problem, you go to a counselor.
Hmm.
um, so those are the other things that we use. We use the tools that are available to us to address the issues that are most pressing.
That is so important for families to realize that you don't have to struggle alone. If you need
Yeah.
help in an area, there is help available for that very thing. And so,
Hmm.
thank you so much for stressing that importance and for answering that question with such clarity. And we thank you for your willingness to share your story. So, I know that you're a very gifted man. What are some of your talents? What are some of your interests, some of your hobbies, some of the things that you enjoy doing for yourself? You mentioned archery, but I have a feeling there are a few more things that you like to get into.
Archery. I like to archery. Mountain biking. I haven't done that in a while, but I like that. Um, I like driving. I like that a
Mm,
lot. I like driving. Around the house, I cook, I bake. I do those things, and just I'm pretty handy around the house. So
nice.
those things I do. Um, I'm always I have a project going, so that's a big joke. What project are you up to now? So yeah, I usually have a project around the house going. So
Nice.
those things.
So DIY, do it yourself at home.
Yeah. Thank God for YouTube. You
YouTube
can.
University. There you
Oh
go.
yeah, you can. I was just saying to someone, soon you won't need a surgeon. You just go to YouTube.
Mercy, mercy. I don't know about that, Doc. I don't know. I don't know. But you mentioned that you enjoy cycling. There is I don't know if it's official yet, but it's a cycling club at Kodo, and they
Oh.
often go to like Jersey City to the Liberty State Park, or they bike like probably a gang of like 15 people
Oh.
sometimes.
Okay.
But yeah, you might want to check into that.
Okay.
But I want to briefly ask this question since you're a part of our family now. If
Hmm.
you could change one thing about the Church of the Oranges, what would it be?
You know, um, One thing that the pandemic has brought to light is um, what the concept of church actually is,
Mm.
right? What is the concept of church? We have so long we've been wedded to the building as church,
Hmm.
right? We've been wedded to the building as church, and for many, the inability to congregate as church in the building means that we don't have church. Um, but this is not just to Kodo, but to the community of churches, is that we have the pandemic has revealed the broader reach we have as a people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Look what we're doing right now, right? Uh, I don't know if this existed before the pandemic,
Not at all.
right? But the pandemic has given us the ability to cross boundaries. I mean,
Hmm.
we were having a Sabbath school study the other day, and we had someone from Peru who joined in this
Nice.
in the Zoom class, and that's what I'd like us to change. It's more of a mindset as
Mm.
to, you know, we have the ability to reach so many more people than we do in our brick and mortar,
Right.
and we should really think of the the platforms such as, your Amazon and so on and so forth, where Amazon could never do what they're doing in a brick and mortar format, right? They would never have the reach and grow as fast. And we're told that the movements at the end of time will be rapid ones, right?
Yep.
They'll be rapid ones. What is more rapid than going on now? I mean, what is more rapid than what's going on now? We see, uh, just at administrative levels, we see participation in our ministries that surpass what we had pre-COVID,
Mm.
right? And at the same time, we're seeing a decrease in administrative costs.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're now to if we remain faithful in our giving and leverage the savings that we have, just think of how much more work we could do in
Mm-hmm.
ministry, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's feeding, whether that's building a better telecommunication infrastructure, whether it is, all the outreach, the right arm of the gospel, the health message.
Yeah.
We can accomplish so much more if we leverage this time. Because, just as how I mentioned that, in our family, we had a COVID improvement project
Mm-hmm.
individually.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a church, we can use this time as a COVID improvement for local churches, for conferences, for general conference,
Yeah.
right? And move the gospel much further than it has ever gone before.
Mm-hmm.
Just move it much farther than it's ever gone before. And I think those are some of the things that I would like us to change, not just at Coda, but as an organization and as individuals, to think about the far reach we can have if we lose the constraints of brick and mortar.
Mm. Thank you for saying that. I heard someone say it once that the pandemic has given the church at large an opportunity to reset
Yeah,
and be the church that God has called us to be.
yeah.
And unfortunately, many churches and people are fighting the shift. They're fighting, they're fighting. They want to go back to what was familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But could it be that God has squeezed us in order
Mm-hmm.
to squeeze a blessing out on the other side? And
Yeah.
so that is powerful, powerful, powerful advice. Thank you for saying that, Brother O'Brien. So, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and some of your goals and aspirations for your own life? I know you work in the financial sector. What
Mm-hmm.
are you planning or working on or working towards for the next 5 to 10 years? What should we expect from you?
Well, yeah. I really don't have those sort of goals. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, we just finished refinancing the house. I own some property and I work. So those things just sort of go ahead. But one of the things that this year has imprinted upon me is um, that my goals need to be more Christ centered,
Hmm.
right? You know, one of the things that we saw in our study is, you know, in Moses leading the people across the Jordan, just before he led them across the Jordan, he had this huge, soliloquy, the don't forget soliloquy, right? And and we see that throughout the life of the children of Israel, the big failing is that they forgot who God was.
Hmm.
They always forgot. When Joshua died, his before he died, he went through the same soliloquy again. Don't forget.
Hmm.
And it says that uh, when Joshua died and the leaders who were with Joshua died, the people forgot God.
Mercy.
They forgot God. One of my passions and goal is to create discipleship among the people of God, and
Hmm.
and really primarily at the young age, to create disciples at a young age.
Hmm.
Um, how is it possible that after David and Solomon you had a Jeroboam
Hmm.
and a Rehoboam, right?
Hmm.
How is that possible,
The
right?
next generations.
The next generation just completely forgot the blessing of God to the point where they made golden calves and said these are the gods who took you out of Egypt.
Hmm.
And what is the equivalent of that today, right? So my passion really is about creating disciples at a young age so that our children will have not just a knowledge of, but a love for God and
Hmm.
obedience to Him,
Hmm.
and to remain true throughout their lifetime. So that's one thing I'm passionate about, and something I'd like to work at accomplishing at a more consistent and format.
Hmm.
Is how to do that. The thing is, if we're focused on the things of God, the other things come along.
Hmm.
The house, the car, the 2.5 kids. Those things all come along, and that's one of the things that we found this year. This year, focusing on God, things just seem to have, you know, gone pretty smoothly for us as a family, and recognizing those blessings, we have tried to give back as much as possible. So we're involved in ministry. We're involved in not ministry just church wise, but we like this morning we went out and we joined with another group, and we gave clothes to the homeless down at Newark. And once a month we cook and we feed about 50 people down at the train station at Penn Station, and we've been doing that for a couple of years now.
Nice.
But yeah, so in terms of accomplishing goals, we work hard. My wife works hard, and we do those things. We're mindful of our spending. Or we try to be good stewards, and we're frugal. Um, you know, Car's a 2007 car. Don't need a new one. you know, so we're frugal with those things, and we're mindful and we plan, but um, not really looking for a bigger house or bigger this or a bigger that, or you know, God has provided. He has
Mhm.
provided, and so uh, that's that's where that's the trajectory I'd like to head in.
Awesome. I love to hear that you aspire to leave a spiritual legacy
Yeah.
in the next generation, and to model that and to pour into them so that they can grow up and remember the God that we are modeling for them. And
Hmm.
so thank you for mentioning the importance of that, and for just for sharing your story and your heart and your insights. And I am sure that the audience is appreciative of you sharing and being here today on the Juice and the Orange podcast. So we thank you for joining us today, and we invite you to tune back in to the Juice and the Orange podcast, the place where every person is just a name until you know their story. We'll see you next time. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless.